A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'soomin al-mazlumin. Assalamu alaikum viewers. Welcome to the fresh episode of Quran and Science. As you know, our current discussion is regarding the prime numbers, and we are trying to understand the mysteries of numbers and letters and the numerical values of certain letters, and as letters are summed up into words and words are joined together into verses, and each one has a unique numerical composition, a numerical value, and there are some numerical mysteries that occur at various occasions on various places in Quran, and nothing of which is random. They're all very, very meticulously, very, very carefully and intriguingly placed. And as we shared with you earlier, that the many names of the Quran Majid given to the book by the Creator, by the Almighty Allah wa Zul Jalali wal Ikram, that at some places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called the Quran as the Kitab al-Maknoon, and then like Lulu al-Maknoon, it's like a hidden pearl, as if the pearl is hidden in a clamshell, secure and safe, and just like a very, very beautiful, valuable thing. And as an egg containing life within the very delicate shell. The shell and the outer covering may look lifeless, may look a coating, but the shell is not unbreakable. The shell is not too hard to break, meaning it's a very beautiful reference that although there are certain meanings which are hidden, which are covered, which are protected, and they contain a knowledge or a mystery or an answer to a mystery or a cipher to a code, an answer or a solution to a problem within an apparent shell, within an apparent covering, within an apparent coating, which may seem meaningless, I would say, because, like, for example, like the Quran's example to itself as the eggshell, like the outer covering is lifeless, like an egg also is one of the examples of the ayah that we take out the dead from the living and the living from the dead. So an egg may seem to be a non-living thing, but within it contains life. If we boil an egg or fry an egg, okay, that's it. As long as it's an egg in the shop or in the refrigerator, it seems to be a non-living organism. But if you incubate it and allow it to hatch, it will produce life. And the various other examples or the titles given to the Quran, that like it's hidden under the several layers and several sheets and several protective covers, it is a very subtle indication that the Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is drawing our attention to. That there are some, as the Quran itself says, that like within it it has some ayahs which are very apparent and clear, ayatul muhkamat, and then there are some ayat mutashabihat. There are some which have ambiguous meanings, which need ta'wil, which may need further inference, and for which we need the rasikhuna fil ilm, for which we need the guidance. Hence the hadith saqalain that we need both Quran and the Itrat. that the Quran itself, the book itself, is not enough for us, because it is far more deeper. It contains far deeper meanings, far vast meanings, far expansive meanings than which is apparent from its text. We were discussing about some numerical values, and we started, we could have started from a smaller number, and like as we discussed in our previous discussions, that all the numerical mysteries present in the Quran, which have been pointed out at various in various ayahs at various places, they are all contained in a prime number format. Like they are all contained as prime numbers. And we already have discussed the types of numbers we have. The prime numbers, they themselves are very mysterious numbers, and the purpose and the reason, which again is very requires a great discussion, that why did the Almighty picked out the prime numbers? Why not any other numbers, or why not any other numbers at random? Why only prime numbers? So what is so important and particular about prime numbers? There are various ayahs, various surahs which point out, like for example Surah Al-Fajr also points out in the first few ayahs, Allah Ta'ala takes the oath of the Shafa and the Watr, the even and the odd. So that is also one of the indications, one of the examples of the indicators towards the prime numbers. Why are we having this discussion in the first place about Quran containing mysteries and containing coded messages as prime numbers? In our everyday life, especially these days when the information technology is very widespread, and it's present in every household. In fact, it's present in everybody's hands, as like even in the form of smartphones. And there is so much that we depend on internet. There's so much that we depend on the computers these days. For example, the passwords that we use. And for example, because like if you notice that many passwords, they require you to have a certain frequency of difficulty, which an ideal password is the one which consists of letters and numbers. And not just any letters and numbers, you know, whenever you are trying to set a password, it shows you the quality, whether it's like it's good, it's poor, it's high grade, high quality. So good quality is always the one which is a combination of some letters and especially some prime numbers. Because prime numbers are not so easy to decode. Another very good example that we seldom take notice of is our the numbers, or the series of numbers on our credit cards, which has a distinct code, which has our identity. Our credit card identity is not only the name, our name that is printed on the credit card, but the actual credit card identity is hidden or is preserved in the number that is given to our credit card. All those credit card numbers, they consist of a very big, a very long prime number, which when used is used by the center, by the command center, by multiplying and preserving and coming across and clicking onto the right combination, which is an even bigger number and which is very difficult to hack. For example, it is also called the science of cryptology. This is how the codes and cryptic messages are created. In the olden days, about a few centuries ago, some cryptic messages also used to be in form of verses, in form of poetry. Like for example, even scientists like Galileo Galilei, they and his some other colleagues, they used to embed their secrets or their secret messages, their secret correspondence in form of poetry, in form of poetic verses. Apparently it would look like a poetic verse, beautiful or simple, whatever, but that actually, that poetic verse would contain the code, would contain the information which is meant for the person it is sent to. And apparently it is the words and the verses are picked out in a way that the sender knows that the receiver would be able to understand or would get the idea, or would easily be understood by the receiver and not by anybody else who picks it up at random or who just or who's surveilling. So similarly, these prime numbers and cryptology, like they are very interesting, and they are something very interesting. Like in one of our very early episodes, we mentioned about the Riemann hypothesis. That Riemann hypothesis, even today, is it's $1 million mystery. That anybody who can solve the Riemann hypothesis can win a reward of $1 million. And it was one of the questions, one of the mysteries of the millennium, of the third millennium. That at the beginning of the third millennium, there were a few questions, a few riddles, or few mysteries, which are still not able to be solved even after many years, many decades, and which still need answers to. So one of them is the Riemann hypothesis, which again is a mystery regarding the prime numbers, that how random and at what stage do they occur. So due to this distribution of and how they are distributed, actually, because they don't occur as a set pattern, they are distributed according to their own calculations, that there is no easy way to tell if a number is a prime or where the next prime number is. For this reason, prime numbers are used as keys in public key cryptography to encrypt messages into unreadable text without requiring to share a common key to lock and unlock messages. Like for example, as I mentioned, like for example, when we are buying a product online, every time we go to Amazon or to go to any or to eBay, and whenever we are trying to make a payment, and when we are trying to buy any product over the internet, two large secret prime numbers are multiplied together to produce a huge composite number that is made public to enable your computer to wrap up your credit card details with it before sending your details to the computer which is hosting the website you're buying from. Using the HTTPS protocol, that is the secure hypertext transfer protocol, no one can see your financial details except those who know the private keys or the large primes, or can factor the huge composite public key into its large prime factors, which may require many years, making it impractical to hack. The world governments use even larger prime numbers, like for example in thousands of digits long, to secure their communication channels, which require billions of years to factor using supercomputers because of the exponential factorization time. The readable book, Al-Quran. Quran means the readable book. That is, it's not present, it's not written in the Imla'i text. It was the readable books. That's why Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to read it out loud. He used to receive it and used to read it out loud. And most of the companions, they committed it to their memories. Few of them wrote it down as a record, but it did not come in an Imla'i text. That's why many of the words, though they were understood by though they sounded familiar, they could grasp the root of the word, but still many words were very new to the Arabs of that time, even to their very vastly rich language. For example, the word Hamd, the word Muhammad itself, and many such words, they were new, but they could identify the root and they could still grasp the meaning, but still could not understand the depth and the essence of the meaning, which they depended on Rasulullah's further explanation and exegesis and further interpretation by the Prophet. And that is the reason why we, the Shiite school of thought, hold the view that although Rasulullah is the seal of the Prophet, he is the final Prophet, there is no other Prophet or messenger by Allah Almighty. He is the final messenger, he is the last Prophet. But as the Almighty said that Quran is meant till the end of time, so it would be against the adl of the Almighty, it would be against the primary attribute that is the root of the faith, that is the usul-e-deen, that is one of the usul-e-deen. The first usul-e-deen is after Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, we have adl. It would be against the adl of the Almighty to send the Quran and till the end of times, and the final Prophet is gone. For example, at present, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left this finite world 1400 years ago, and the end of time is still unknown, it's still not certain. So it would have been against the adl of the Almighty to leave this world without a prophet, without a messenger, without a link between the Rabb and the people, and between the Abd and the Mabud. The Mabud being the Almighty and the Abd being the masses, the people, the mankind. Although Allah is closer to our jugular vein, but still we cannot directly communicate with the Almighty. We cannot even understand the might of the Almighty. We cannot understand the rahmah of the Almighty. We cannot understand the razaqiyat of the Almighty, how he is the sustainer, how he is the benefactor, how he is the punisher. What will give us consolation? What will give us comfort? And it was made understood, it was made clear, it was the attributes of the Almighty were made clear, were explained to the mankind with the help of the prophets, the messengers. And for people of today, even for people of from 200 years from now, without any prophet, they would have lost the link between the Almighty and themselves. And if they commit any sin or commit any crime, or for example saying that like today it's very easy to access Quran by anybody, but let's say about like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when printing was not so common or not so easily accessible, people had a very valid reason that they never came across Quran or they never knew Arabic. It was not like about a couple of 100 years ago, Quran was not translated in many languages, even in a few languages. So many people, non-Arabic population, non-Arabic people would have, and they actually did have a very valid reason that they did not understand Quran, they did not have the copy of Quran, they didn't have any messenger come to them, they did not have any means of guidance. So if they commit any wrong, it would be against the adl of the Almighty to punish them for their sins, for their wrongs. So for that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed vicegerents or khulafa or imams after the Prophet, who would maintain, who would preserve the word of the Almighty, who would preserve the Quran, who would preserve the word of Allah, and who would make sure that it is being practiced it is being followed, it is being understood in the exact way that is meant by the Almighty. It's nothing different like what is maintained by the Shiite school of thought about the 12 Imams after the Prophet's demise, his physical demise from this world. We see that Prophet Moses, Nabi Musa alayhi salam, he has his vicegerents after him, he had his appointees after him. Prophet Jesus, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, he had his 12 Hawaris, as they are called. He has his he had his 12 vicegerents, commonly known as saints, who went far and wide, and who, after the taking away of Nabi Isa, made sure that the people understood the right message, that people maintain on the right religion. That is how the word was preserved until the birth of Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it is not a queer, or it is not a novel, or it is nothing out of ordinary method of leaving a guide, leaving a hadi, leaving an imam in the midst of the people. And as we say, and as we have mentioned before, the famous dua of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, mentioned in Surah Baqarah, after he completed the construction of the Khana Kaaba, offering 2 rakat namaz, and along with his son Ismail, he raised his hand to make dua. And when he received the word of the God that he has passed all his tests in flying colors, and he has come out very successful and meeting all the goals, passing all the tests, and he has been appointed, or he has been made an imam. Now Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was already a Rasul and a Nabi, and then after being a Rasul and a Nabi, he was made an imam. The Almighty proclaimed that now, after having gone through all the tests and being successful at all, now we make you an imam. Prophet Abraham understood the office, understood the position, understood the responsibility, and understood the importance of that designation, that after being made an imam, he again prayed to the Almighty that continue this designation in my generation, in my zuriyat, in my bloodline, in my offsprings. To which the Almighty replied that we accept your prayers, we grant you your wish, but the zalimun from your generation will not get this designation. Zalim or zulm is to put something in its wrong place, to take something or from its right place or its rightful status and place it somewhere where it doesn't belong. So to make sure that the right person is at the right place, doing the right thing, giving the right guidance, maintaining the right word, is very important till the end of time, to maintain the root of the faith, which is the adl. This is why the Quran has been hidden or crypted within numbers, many in encoded messages, because it would have been impossible to create a huge amount of text which would be understood, or which would be sufficient or enough till the end of times. The purpose of the coded messages is so that nobody could meddle and nobody could interfere with the text and the meaning, as was done with the previous scriptures like the Old Testaments, as the Gospels and the Bibles, to maintain and to preserve the authenticity of the Quranic text, which Allah Almighty says in the Quran Himself that we have taken this responsibility of maintaining or preserving the authenticity of this text. How does He do it? How does the Almighty do it? Some people explain it that there won't be any difference in even in the punctuation of the Quran. Like there won't be even a change in Zair or Zabar. Interestingly, until 600 years after Quran was revealed, the Quranic text was written in the scripts which did not have any punctuation. The punctuations was, or the Arab, or the punctuation marks, or the Zair, Zabar, Pesh, as we call them, they were not put on the Quranic text until as early as the time of the third Khalifa. Until then, the Quran was written without any punctuation. The Quranic text was written without any punctuation marks, without any Arab, without any Zair, Zabar or Pesh. Because it was the spoken language, it was a language which was understood by all, and they understood the meaning. So it was only when the copies of the Quran or when the word of Quran went far and wide after the expansion of the Islamic Empire that it reached into the lands which were non-Arabic speaking lands, non-Arabic speaking areas where the Arabic was not understood and not spoken as it was in Arabia, as it was in Hijaz. So it was felt important and necessary to put the punctuation marks. So punctuation marks can be based these days because there could be printing errors, there could be scriptural errors. Would that be maintaining the text? No. By maintaining the text or by maintaining or preserving the authenticity of the Quran, the Almighty means that we have encrypted the vital messages, the important messages, or most of those messages which need a deeper, much more expansive, wider meanings. They have been covered or encrypted as coded messages in many verses and words, which have a distinct numerical value. And most of these verses which contain the cryptic messages, they are accompanied, or the whole verse ends with a phrase that in this there is sign for those who ponder. In this we have sign for those who observe. In this we have sign for those who think. This is again an indication, this is again a sign or pointer towards that think deeply, ponder at it. There is some mystery embedded in it. Pay attention to it. Before we come to an end and before we continue our discussion in our next episode, I would like to share with you the numerical values given to each letter of the Arabic alphabet. Like Arabic alphabet are like 29 in all, as opposed like the English alphabet consists of 26 letters, but Arabic alphabets consist of 29 letters. The Hamza has the numerical value of 1, Alif has numerical value of 2, Ba 3, and if you notice that all of these numerical values along with the letters, they all are prime numbers, whether they are additive prime numbers or they are a result of multiplication, multiplying two composite numbers into a prime number, but they are all prime numbers. So hence the numerical value, because like the pattern of numerology which is followed by each language's letters, it's a bit different. The value of the numerological pattern which is followed by English alphabets is a bit different. This is the one which is followed by the Arabic alphabet. So this is just something to share with you as we'll continue our discussion, because the most recurring and the most interesting numbers or the prime numbers which occur as coded, which occur along with the coded messages, they are number 5, number 7, number 11, number 19, number 29. And we'll discuss more with you later on that why these numbers contain the mysteries. We discussed we slightly touched the number 19 with respect to the beginning of the Quran as Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, that this phrase, which occurs 114 times in the Quran, consists of 19 letters. It is also written in 22 letters if you break down the words with shad, but it is generally written with 19 letters, so it contains the 19 letters. And also I shared with you the beautiful link or beautiful reference that the reason why Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is so much emphasized to be read, to be spoken, to be pronounced before starting to do anything, before doing any chore, before starting any work, before eating, before dressing up, before stepping out from the door, before stepping into your house, before starting any work whatsoever, that the barakas of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, they are embedded in the number 19. One reference is the verse of Surah Mudassir, that over it are 19. Over it are 19 are the 19 guardians of hell, the 19 angels of hell, which are guarding the hell. That each time someone says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, all the 19 guardians of hell, they step back from that person, and the mercy of the Almighty showers upon that person. Another beautiful reference of the number 19, or another phrase, is the 5 names which are the basis of the creation of this universe, as mentioned by the Almighty as the beholders of the ayat tathir, as the holders of tathir. Wa Fatima wa Abiha wa Ba'aluha wa Baniha, that the Panchtane Pak alayhimus salam, that Janab Sayyida, her father, her husband, and her sons, Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein. If we put these names together and if we break down the letters which comprise the names of the Panchtane Pak alayhimus salam, the letters again are 19. So the mercy of the Almighty is connected with the 5, which were the reason for the creation of the universe. We'll continue with our discussion on the prime numbers and with the occurrence of 19. And the reason I'm picking up 19 before picking up the number 7 or number 11 is because that the word of the Almighty, the book of the Almighty, begins with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and it comprises of the 19 letters. With this note, we'll take a leave for today's program, and we'll continue the same discussion in our next show. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, your neighbors, your friends. Pray for us, the Vilayat team. Wa akhiru dawana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.